Hey, what's up, fellas? We'll talk a little bit here about the New Hampshire weekend. Something now we're going to do moving forward is I'm going to group the top three drivers together because I feel like moving forward, you got to have at least one, two of them in your lineups if you're going to win anything. And they've been the most dominant three. So those three will be Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., and Kevin Harvick. So a little bit about this week up in New Hampshire. Weather may play a factor in this race. It's supposed to rain in the morning. They moved the race up an hour because of rain potential. So strategy could come into play. And something we need to look out for based off of that is guys on different strategies, two tires, and staying out, trying to steal a win. So that's something to keep an eye on. But we're going to get started here with obviously the top three guys. The 1878, the 4. This race has been dominated by Toyota in the past. They've won 5 of 6 and 8 of the last 11 at this racetrack. In the last 4 races, it's pretty much been a Toyota show, with Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch leading a combined 931 laps in the last 4 races. MTJ 513 and Kyle Busch 418. You look at the last, average-wise, that's Martin Truex Jr. 128.3 laps led and Kyle Busch 104.5. Harvick, in my opinion, he does have the best floor, starting 14th, but he is third on my list of the 3, and the other guys are 1A, 1B, 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it. In my opinion, I think you need to have both those guys in your lineups to win this weekend, but it's going to be hard because of the weather. So weather, like I said, could play a factor, and pit strategy could throw a wrench into things. The next group of drivers I'm going to talk about will be Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Clint Bowyer. I like all these guys. Hamlin's won here before. It's one of his better tracks. He has 2 top 10s, a top 5 in the last 4. He's led 59 laps. He did win this race. I want to say it was last July. Yeah, he won this race last July. Kyle Busch won the September race in the chase. In that September race in the chase, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. had 299 of 300 laps combined between the two of them. The only other person to lead a lap in that race was Kyle Larson. Brad Keselowski, to me, is the lowest of this group of drivers. Even though, here's where the strategy comes in. If there's anyone in the garage that's going to pull strategy, it's the Penske group. Paul Wolf, Paul Gordon, and I don't know, Ryan Blaney's crew chief off the top of my head. But those will be the guys to pull the pit strategy. You saw it last week. Brad took 2 tires at Kentucky, led some laps, but wasn't able to hold off Truex in the end. But with his starting position, that's why I put him the lowest of this group, with Hamlin having the history here and it being a JGR track. I put him above Keselowski. Logano, Bowyer, and Larson are all starting 14th through 20th, and so they give you the floor of great place differential. Larson finished second here both races last year, so that's good there. Logano's one of the 3 drivers in the last 11 to win this race besides a Toyota. Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick being the other 2. I like Logano. He showed some speed in practice today. which I really liked. I think he could be a sneaky play here. Third practice, he was 9th fastest. Second practice, he was 7th. He didn't run any 10 laps, so take that for what it's worth. Keselowski did run the 10 lap. He was 5th in final practice in the 10 lap. Larson was 9th and 10th in the 10 laps. So, like I said, he's finished 2nd here the last 2 races. And let's see, overall, and he was 2nd fastest in practice, or excuse me, first fastest in practice 2, and 4th in practice 3. But in the 10 lap, he was 2nd and 8th. Sorry, that's Denny Hamlin. I'm getting this all confused right now. Scratch that. Kyle Larson, 9th in P2 and 10th in P3, and 14th. Look at that. Oh, I'm all over the joint. 10 lap, Kyle Larson, 9th in practice 2, 10th in practice 3, and 19th and 14th in single lap average. So he does have some long run speed there, make up some spots. Boyer is a guy that I think could be really sneaky here. He played the tire strategy at Michigan and held off Harvick and the rain to win that race. So I think he can easily do that. And with this being a flat track similar to Martinsville, it's a little bit long. It's obviously twice as long as Martinsville, but he did win that race and he dominated that race. A lot of people missed on that one, including myself, and he won that race very easily. He was 7th in practice 2 in the 10 lap and 15th in practice 3 in the 10 lap. So he has some upside there. All right. So the next group of drivers will be Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Blaney, Kurt Busch, Eric Almirola, and Eric Jones. And Chase Elliott starting 10th. I just don't like the play. I think there's better value in this price range. Jimmy Johnson gives you some solid upside with his starting position at 21st. So I think he could be a solid play. This is a track where you don't have to have the speed, and Hendrick hasn't had the speed this year, but this is not a downforce track. So it could easily be a track where Jimmy Johnson shows a little bit something here. He was 5th fastest in final practice. He had a 10th fastest in the 10 lap in practice 2. So a little bit of speed there. Ryan Blaney has speed. He's starting 5th. With the guys starting around him, it makes it a tough play because I think obviously Truex, Kyle, Denny Hamlin are all elite here. But again, with it being a Penske driver and pit strategy coming into play, as far as tires go, I think he could easily steal this race. He had the fastest 10 lap in practice 2 and 6th fastest in practice 3. And he had some speed on the single laps as well. So he has short speed. Kurt Busch on the pole. I don't like the play with Kurt Busch, especially with the Sharks behind him. So for me, I think it's a full fade. Eric Almirola, I think, is in play. Not a lot of great speed. I think Jimmy Johnson and Eric Jones are better plays. Eric Jones at starting 7th showed speed all weekend. I just wish he was starting more like 11th or 12th. Again, this is a Gibbs track, and he was in the winning lineup or the optimal lineup in the September race of 17. He did wreck in the July race of 17. And he had 16 and a half fastest lap points in that September 17th race. So he does have some speed. We look at the last 4 races for him, if I can find it. He's down at the bottom because of the wreck. There he is. He's average start 7th, so he's right where he should have started. Like I said, he has 16.5 fastest lap points. He hasn't led any laps. The place differential is a killer, but again, that's because of the wreck in the July of 17 race where he finished. Where'd he go? Or excuse me, the September race, and I don't have that one pulled up. I could pull it up, but we'll just go ahead and skip that. Next group of drivers: Ryan Newman, Austin Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Jimmy McMurray, and Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman. Newman, here's the thing with Newman. He's tough to pass. He races everybody hard. This is a hard track to pass on. He's starting 18th. He could come into play. I don't know. Like, he's average start of 17.5 and a finish of 16.8. And he's only run about 44% of the laps in the top 15. So that shows you that he's not up there a whole lot. I don't see a whole lot out of Newman. I think there's better plays. Austin Dillon, same thing with Austin Dillon. Same equipment with Newman. Austin Dillon, if I can find him here really quick. Average start 21.8, average finish of 15.8. So he's right there where he should be. I just don't see a lot of upside with these two guys. I think definitely Stenhouse Jr. and Jamie McMurray are better plays. Start 23rd and 22nd. Out of those two guys, Stenhouse average finish of 15.8, and McMurray average finish of 14.5. And McMurray's ran 87.3% of his laps here in the last 4 races in the top 15. So I think those two are definitely the better plays of this group. The interesting guy is Suarez. Suarez has been in the optimal lineup the last 2 races here, in the July race and the September race. But here's the thing. In July of 17, Suarez started 14th and finished 6th. And I want to say in the September race he started, I want to say it was like 22nd. His average finish in the last 2 was 19.5, and his average finish is 7th. So him starting 9th, he has a little bit of upside, but not a ton. So he's interesting. He gets around this track well. It's a flat track. He's a Gibbs driver. Just starting 9th makes me a little bit nervous, especially with him in practice 2, 14th and 15th in single lap. He didn't run a 10 lap in practice 2, and practice 3 he was 12th fastest in the 10 lap. So he's interesting. Alex Bowman to me is a pure fade. Starting 8th, I just think is too high. So I wouldn't play Alex Bowman at all tomorrow. So the next group of drivers is Matt Kenseth, Paul Menard, Casey Kane, AJ Allmendinger, and William Byron. Kenseth is the most interesting of this group. He's starting 31st. He's phenomenal here, but that was in Gibbs equipment. Roush equipment sucks. So to me, he's still a play. And if you're building a core group with, any of the top 3, I think Kenseth is in play. just because he's $6,800, gives you a little bit of salary relief, and he knows how to get around this track. And if he can just get us a top 20, that would be phenomenal. It would be great if he did that. He didn't run a 10-lap in practice 3, but he was 19th fastest in 10-lap in practice 2 and 21.5 on the 2 practices. Average-wise, I don't use practice 1 because everyone's in qualifying trim, so we just throw that one out the window. Paul Menard, much better equipment. He's a Penske affiliate. I think he could be a really sneaky play this week. Qualified 12th, which is a little concerning. He was 9th fastest in 3rd practice in the 10-lap, and overall he's 13th fastest. And he was in the optimal lineup in the July race of 17 at 6,500. So his price only went up $100, and he's in much better equipment. So I really think Paul Menard could be a solid play. And let's just find him here real quick. Where'd he go? Paul Menard. Wrong tab. My apologies. Paul Menard average finished at 21.3. So that's a little concerning, but better equipment. Again, salary relief type guy. Casey Kane, same thing, salary relief type guy. Starting 26th. I would play Kane before I played Menard, just based off of starting position. You don't need a whole lot out of Kane. Showed a little bit of speed and everything. He was 19.5 in 10-lap between the 2 practices. So, get you 6-7 spots in place differential. Again, all his previous races were in Hendrick equipment, which was much better equipment than what he's driving in now. So take that for what it's worth. AJ Allmendinger didn't run any 10-lap in practice. This is a flat track. He knows how to get around flat tracks. He runs Indianapolis well, and he runs Martinsville well, and he takes care of his brakes. So I think he could be in play. I just wish he was starting 22nd at 24th instead of 16th. William Byron, rookie here. He finished 3rd in the Xfinity race last year here. Great equipment. He's definitely the best equipment of anyone in this group, with it being Hendrick, but he's starting 11th. And starting 11th, a little too high for my liking. I think you can drop down to the next group of guys and hope that they can finish, 19th to 23rd and score some place differential there and just fade William Byron. But I think he could be a very sneaky play. He's finished a lot of laps this year, and he's taking care of the equipment, which is all you can ask for from a rookie. I just wish he was starting more like 18th to 20th. Then I think he'd be a phenomenal play at $6,000. But with that being said, I think you drop down to the next tier, and that tier would include Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, Ty Dillon, David Reagan, Michael McDowell, Ross Chastain, and those guys. You get Bubba, Buescher, Ty, Reagan. Sorry. Those guys, if you can get, like I said, if you can get anything from like a 20th to 23rd place finish out of some of these guys, take it and run. Let's look at a little bit of data here on some of these guys. Ty Dillon, average finish here in the last, he's run 2 races here, average finish 19th. Chris Buescher, 26.3, McDowell, 28.5. We don't really have any data on Bubba Wallace, but if you look at what Almirola did in that car, $21.5 in the last 4. So, I mean, like I said, all we're asking these guys to do is get around 20th. I think all these guys are in play as punts because they're going to need some salary relief to fit some guys in. David Reagan's not one of his better tracks, but for whatever reason this year, this guy just finishes races and finishes ahead of wherever he's supposed to be. He has an average finish here of 30th, so that's right where he's starting. But like I said, this year, for whatever reason, the dude just gets around, doesn't wreck, and finishes higher than he should. And now that I say that, he probably will wreck. So all these guys, I think, are in play. Like I said, you just need salary relief, mix and match, especially if you're playing multiple lines. Use all those guys. The next group on down, or we didn't touch on Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain's another guy that I kind of like. Not a lot of data on him in the Cup Series in this car. I don't think he ran here last year in July. I don't see him on the list. But again, salary relief. He's taking care of his equipment. I want to say Phoenix, he ran really well. I don't have that one pulled up, but I want to say he did well in Phoenix, and I think he was in the winning lineup there when it was all said and done. All right, and on down from Matt DiBenedetto, Corey LaJoie, McLeod, Castle, Blake Jones, and Weatherman. Castle, to me, is not in play this week. Same with McLeod. LaJoie, I built a lineup with him earlier. The optimal lineup in September of 17 had Brent Moffitt in it at $4,800 for 16 points. So Corey LaJoie, I think, could be that guy. Moffitt had -4 place differential points in that race. LaJoie is starting 33rd, so you would have to finish 37th to get -4. If LaJoie can finish 30th, 28th, and all realistically he could, depending on what happens in this race. McLeod, I don't want anything to do with. Blake Jones, same thing. Like McLeod didn't run any 10 lap. He ran 10 lap in practice too, was 21st, but not everybody runs 10 lap in practice, so take that for what it's worth. Weatherman, I don't know. I can't play him, I don't think. Blake Jones, I can't play either. His first race in the Cup Series, it looks like he has 0 average points on DK. Just a little quick rundown here of some optimal lineups. The July race last year had Mark Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Daniel Suarez, Paul Menard, and Danica Patrick as the optimal lineup. And the last thing is last year, there are two guys that started in the back and finished up front, Kyle Larson and Joey Logano. They both started in the back for whatever reason. Larson missing qualifying inspection, so he had to start in the back. He had 37 place differential points, and Logano had 29. So I'm assuming the same thing happened there. But the key thing here is those two starting in the back were both in the optimal lineups. We don't have anyone here this week that's going to do that. And then it was Toyota, Mark Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Suarez in July, and Kyle Busch, Truex, Eric Jones, and Suarez in September of 17. So Toyota had half or 66%, 2/3 of the optimal lineups last year. I think this is a race that's going to come down to Truex and Kyle again. Like I said, you look back at it and anything here, they've led all the laps. I mean, in the last 4 races, there's only like 10 guys that have led laps. And here are the 10. Kyle, 418, Kenseth, 147, Truex, 513, Kyle Larson, 2, Denny Hamlin, 59, Brad Keselowski, 3, Jimmy Johnson, 1, Kevin Harvick, 8, Danica Patrick 9 and Chase Elliott 1. Danica's not even in the race. I don't see Chase Elliott or Jimmy Johnson leading laps unless it's on a strategy call where they stay out or take tires, 2 tires, get track position, lead a couple laps here or there. Brad Keselowski, I could see leading laps. I could see any of the Penske guys, Keselowski, Logano, Blaney lead laps because they're going to be the ones that are going to do 2 tires. And with weather playing a factor, you just got to get to the end of stage 2, and that's only 150 laps. And you're going to see guys that will play the 2-tire strategy at the end of the stage. And if rain's close, just try and hold on. And that's what it's going to take. The stages are 75, 75, 151, and the fuel window is like 78 to like 80, 82 laps. So you're not going to see anyone pit prior to stage break, in my opinion. If a caution comes out late and you're 11th, 12th on back, I definitely could see you guys pitting and then staying out at the end of the stage break. Anybody with wins is going to go for the stage points, playoff points, and try to score that. And it's a race between the big 3, Kyle Busch, Mark Truex Jr., and Kevin Harvick. It's a race between those guys to get as many points as they can and set themselves up for the playoffs. And this is not a playoff race as it has been in years past. It's always had 2 races here. Now it's only 1. So teams aren't coming here to test and set themselves up for a chase race. So it's going to change strategy a little bit. Weather will play a factor. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, hit me up, and I'll be more than happy to answer what I can.